Live. Harvey Levin here.
Charles here. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Well, they are dropping like flies, it seems, in the Diddy trial. One juror excused, another on the hot seat.
Yes, big time on the hot seat with the judge. But it started, the day is going to end with a decision about the second juror. The first juror, known as juror number 6, that was their badge. But juror number 6 is no longer on the case because early this morning, before the jury came in, the judge addressed the issues that started last week with this juror number 6, which was a question about where he lives and whether or not he should actually even be on this case. And the judge said that juror number 6 had shown a, quote, lack of candor about his residence. During jury selection, he had said that he lives in the Bronx with his fiance, but I guess through conversations he's had with people around the court, it came to the court's attention that, or prosecutor's attention, that he was saying something about New Jersey. And if he lives in New Jersey, you shouldn't be on a case.
He wouldn't be part of that. He wouldn't be part of the jury pool.
Pool.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. The judge heard this from the prosecution on Friday. The judge then said, I'm booting this juror.
By the way, we should say, actually, this started even earlier than Friday. Friday, he finally addressed it with both sides, but they'd been talking about it for a couple of days before Friday.
So he boots the juror on Friday. Then the defense comes in and says, wait a minute. They think that this juror is, the reason prosecutors want to get rid of the juror is because the juror wasn't buying the prosecution's case. Now, how do they know that? Maybe gestures, reactions, whatever. But the defense, and he's an African-American guy who's a big fan of 90s hip-hop. So
clearly the defense would prefer to have this person on the jury. They feel there's a better chance than not that he's going to side with Diddy.
Now, let me give you the reason, the thing that gives me just a little bit of pause here, is that if it's so clear that this juror should not have been in that jury box, if it's so clear he's not living in an area from which the jury is pulled, then the judge would have said to the defense, sorry, I've already booted him. But instead, the judge says,
I'll think about it.
Let me think about it over the weekend.
But hold on, no. Right, and the judge came in this morning and said, okay,
right,
I heard you out, I thought about it.
But if it was so clear, why did he even...
And he's saying it's not clear. He's saying there are too many questions, but he said, look, we have alternate jurors. Let's use the alternate juror because I can't tell what this guy, he said this and he said that.
That's not the way it works.
That is exactly how it went down this morning.
But that's not the way it works.
On Friday, what actually happened is the judge did not remove him from the case. The judge said, this is what I'm inclined to do. And before, this was all after court on Friday.
Right.
And the judge, and then the defense made their case for why he should stay on. The judge said, I will think about it.
And because it's not
But he had
clear,
not actually removed the juror yet.
But because it's not clear, I'm just telling you, the defense has a really interesting argument here that the prosecution is trying to get rid of unsympathetic jurors.
There is another juror. We got hung up on that one.
Well, that's important.
I'm so glad that you're back. I'm really glad you're back.
I'm glad I'm back.
The other juror, the issue with that juror involves a text message. On Friday, this juror, not juror number 6, informed the judge that he had gotten a text message, he said, from a phone number he didn't recognize, and the text said, are you juror number 6? So he wanted to be open with the court about that. We're told that the judge drilled down, asked some more questions.
Oops.
And whatever the answers were, we don't know exactly what this juror said, but the judge was left feeling like this juror might be talking to people outside of, talking to people about the case.
Translation. This was an unknown phone number that, at least unknown.
That's what the juror
unknown
said.
to the juror. And maybe the juror did think, who is that person? Because somebody obviously heard the news that juror 6 was booted. So why did that person text this guy and ask that question?
Why would he know to text that guy?
It seems that the juror actually knew the guy, but just didn't know that was a phone number of this guy.
Could be.
And if they knew each other, then how did that person know that he was even on the jury? What did he talk about? Oops.
Yeah. So at the bottom end of the day, we already have one new juror on the case, and there could be another alternate on by the end of the day on Monday.
Wow. So let's bring in a real judge.
Yes. What would a real judge do in this case? Because I know you have a lot of experience, but Judge Mathis, you have actually worn the robe, sat on the bench.
By the way, I wore a robe in small claims court. Okay, so just give me a break.
Listen, I watched people's court. You're the guy who was standing outside.
No, I was in.
You were standing outside the courtroom.
I presided in Los Angeles County on small claims cases. Okay.
Are you really? You want to die on small claims hill? Judge Mathis, save this man. Save this man from himself.
Hey,
welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you. Hey, he and I did the same. I hear small claim cases for the last 26 years.
Yeah, but you actually were a district court judge.
Yeah, but as a sitting district court judge, I heard murder cases, motions, etc. So
what do you think? What do you think about this? That especially juror number 6. By the way, African American replaced by a white juror. And there are rumblings in the defense, I'm told, that they're going to make a racial argument here.
Well, they've already said they want a mistrial if the judge does this.
Right.
Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but they're on the record saying this is a problem.
Yeah, well, I was listening to you earlier, and Harvey and I agree with most of what you say because, yes, he could.
Excuse me, say that again. I didn't hear you.
I agree with most of what you said. Because
Get to the part that you disagree with. Get to the part you disagree with. That's right. You agree with most of it.
No, but I think that certainly there could have been another residence that he was staying with his girlfriend at, so he's going back and forth. That's frequent. And so in that sense, he could still be living within the jurisdiction of the jury pool. But additionally, I think the fact that they did not give a full hearing to the defense, to be able to bring in affidavits, to be able to bring in utility bills, things of that nature that would prove that he's a resident of the Bronx. I think that's what should have occurred before removing him. And in fact, I think they should make a motion now to revisit it and to reinstate him as a juror in effort to prove that his residency.
How do you do that? They've had testimony today that he didn't hear. So how would you possibly do that at this point?
You file a motion to revisit.
But if you bring him back, he's missed a day. The best case scenario, you get him back tomorrow. He's missed a day of testimony.
Well, he can read the transcripts.
Okay. Still, you can't judge their reactions on the stand and whatnot.
Yeah, that was my question. Are they videotaping the trial?
No.
Yeah, that's a little pickle there. It's a little pickle. Maybe you just have to go straight to appeals court, and something has to be sacrificed, but not a potential juror that might be favorable to the defendant. That's not who you sacrifice here, and that should be a concern.
So what I hear you saying, Judge, is that if Diddy loses, you think that this is a good grounds for appeal?
Yes, I think it would be because you haven't allowed a proper opportunity to prove residency. That's where I'm stuck at. Why didn't you allow a proper opportunity in hearing to prove residency, which would have included affidavits, and I'm sure the defense would have done that. And so that's why that's my view, is that there should have been more of a hearing before discharging the juror.
You know, help me out here, because what I was thinking is, the guy had to get a jury summons to even appear in the first place. And if he got a jury summons, it was mailed to someplace in New York. So it would seem that even the feds believed he lived there, and there was some mailing address, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely there was. That's the only way people received the jury, notice.
And on the other juror getting this text message, how would you react to that? Of course,
other
juror getting the text message asking if he's juror number 6. Yeah,
of course, you have to follow the law and the court rules that apply to that state. However, let's be real. Those folks on the jury, they tell someone, their loved one, whomever, that they're on the jury, and then the word gets out. I mean, these are real people. The law is paper, and these people are real. And so although we expect them not to tell folks that they're on the jury, they're doing just that.
But once you know that I get you, yes, I'm sure even the judge realizes, they probably are talking about it. But once it has been brought to your attention, then you have to treat this like, look, this is a violation, and this person probably shouldn't be on the jury.
That's correct. And so I'm in favor of that. I agree with that person should be removed from the jury, having outside contacts regarding the trial.
Well, look, based on the fact that we are in such alignment, you and me, we'd like to have you on frequently.
No problem.
I know we will have opportunity because you are covering and following the trial just like we are with your Mathis Verdict podcast.
When I retired from district court in Detroit, where I did murders and everything else, I was so happy. 6 years, I haven't had any of that. Now I put myself right back in it. Well, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night again.
Hey, what do you think about this guy throwing shade at small claims?
What
do you think about that?
Small claims.
Yeah, he been smoking crack.
You keep my weekend activities out of this, Judge, okay? Listen, thanks so much for being with us, Judge Mathis. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Judge. Yep. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Again, he said he agreed with most of what you said, not all.
I will serve the crow later. We are going to take a break.
Oh, gosh. When we come back, Justin Bieber sounds the alarm. What he posted this morning about his own mental health battles. If anyone is helping him through all of this, it was a very honest text that he posted, but also scary if you're someone who's close to Justin. It is the most clear cry for help that Justin Bieber has posted. And he's been posting a lot of things that you've heard fans that they're very alarmed and they think that he needs to get help. But this one there's nothing cryptic about it. Justin posted a message to everyone who's concerned about him, I guess. He said, "People keep telling me to heal. Don't you think if I could have fixed myself, I would have already? I know I'm broken. I know I have anger issues. I tried to do the work my whole life to be like the people who told me I needed to be fixed like them. And it just keeps making me more tired and more angry."
I think that is so interesting because what I think he's saying, and look, we spent a lot of time on a new documentary that's on YouTube now called
What Happened to Justin Bieber?
What Happened to Justin Bieber? And, my view of this, after especially talking with people in his world, people on his side, is that Justin has had these mental issues for a long, long time that he's been struggling with. And there's nothing worse than if you're really going through something and then people tell you, oh, you've got a wife, you've got a kid, you've got a career.
Your life is great.
Your life is great.
Just get over whatever it is.
You can't say that to somebody who's going through it. It becomes enraging because it's almost like they just slammed the door shut on what you're feeling. And that's really destructive. And it feels like he's just had it.
And you hear him referring to the anger issues, which we saw started flaring up last week when he was leaving dinner out in Malibu. Had a 4-minute angry conversation with the paparazzi and said that they shouldn't be there. And then we saw a little more anger on Father's Day.
Yeah, and Coachella, remember that he had several incidents
back
there.
To Coachella. And then on Father's Day, his post was not a warm, fuzzy Father's Day message. He said, "I'm a dad that's not to be bleeped with." And there was a middle finger emoji added to the photo.
Yeah, and there were several other posts that he did. He had taken some screen grabs of a conversation he had with an unknown person who presumably reached out to Justin to try to be like, hey, I'm worried, whatever. And Justin's response really was him lashing out saying, you, I'm blocking you. Like he was not here for any kind of, for anyone reaching out or anyone with advice. But another thing too, Charles, you had mentioned that, yesterday was Father's Day, was posting a lot. Well, guess who didn't post Justin? His wife, Haley. They have a son together, 9 months old. His name is Jack Blues. It's Justin's first Father's Day. Haley didn't post any kind of tribute to him, which I know sounds silly in like an everyday world.
Yeah, no, it doesn't because
when
it's
you are a celebrity,
first Father's Day, yeah.
Yeah, people are, especially a first Father's Day, people are turning to see like what you post or anything like that, especially the Biebers. There's no post, but Haley did comment on one of Justin's posts saying, Father's Day sucks butt, which is something he had originally said about Mother's Day. So yeah, it doesn't seem very loving.
Hey guys, Ashley here from Arizona. My opinion comes from an empathetic place because we've been watching Justin Bieber since he was a little kid, and just the media has just been attacking him all the time. And we've got to watch him go through the phases, and now we're watching him go through the phase of fatherhood and being a husband, and he's taking this role very seriously, and he's also battling some pretty serious demons while he's navigating this. So I just feel like he is hurting and he's struggling with mental health, and he also has the whole world coming down on him at the exact same time, and it's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on.
Yes, to Luigi Mangione and his musical debut. He had nothing to do with it. Obviously, he's sitting in Brooklyn, MDC. But Luigi the Musical did make its premiere this weekend. And by the way, sold out for 5 shows.
Well,
now,
49 people in the audience.
Right. Very small theater in San Francisco.
It's called an equity theater.
Right. This is in San Francisco. And it's gotten reviews, I'll say that, as to the quality.
Well, it's funny. The San Francisco Chronicle is great.
Yes. It said it's the Luigi the Musical has everybody talking. It's also awful.
So what you know the way they do, like when you see the like a promo on TV, it's like Luigi Mangione, the musical that's got everybody talking. You just leave out the last part.
That's all it is, and they leave out the last part. Here's just a little bit of it so you can judge for yourself.
The show is a satire, imagining the lives of Luigi Mangione,
I was the CEO of FTX.
convicted crypto king Sam Bankman-Fried,
Bad boys for life. I discovered Usher.
and music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, locked up together in a cell in Brooklyn.
So the musical sold out within a day of tickets going on sale. What does that say to you?
I think it just says that our art's deeply resonating. One big question we're trying to answer is like, why are we using violence increasingly as a society to try to solve these problems? And we're so saturated in the violence that we're just kind of swimming in it in the social media age.
So CNN actually went to previews, and that's what they were saying about it. By the way, just so you're clear, yes, Diddy is being played by a woman.
Well, Hamilton was played.
Yeah, sure.
I got to say something about this. My favorite play is Little Shop of Horrors. And Little Shop of Horrors, when you get down to it, is about murder and greed and all these things wrapped up in a musical that's really funny. So, like that guy just said from the show, that there can be an underlying message, even though they're doing
I totally
this.
get the underlying message, but let's be honest, the reason people who have an issue with this have an issue is that it is not. Little Shop of Horrors is a complete fiction. This is something that actually happened, and there's video that everyone has seen of Luigi opening fire to the back of the head of Brian Thompson.
But the message
and not
becomes
that long
was
ago.
A father and now the alleged murderer has become a cult hero, and I think that's why there's a big distinction to be made there, Harvey.
No, I mean, there is a distinction, but the point is that it's a real message, not a funny message.
The message is absolutely real, but it makes a difference to some people how that message is being delivered. And doing a musical.
So let me ask you something. What'd you think of the producers with the musical song Springtime for Hitler?
I think that the phrase too soon definitely applies.
A lot of comedians say too soon ain't a real thing.
But the producer, hold on. The producers was referencing when that came out something that was how old?
Well, it was still 6 million Jews, Charles. Come on.
What? That was oh, no. Wait a second.
It was 6 million Jews.
Yes, it was.
And it was in the 60s.
My point is, and if the producers came out in 1947, would you have been sitting there going, yeah, this is great?
It mattered in 68, too.
Hey, this is Kevin from New York, New York. And you know what? I think Luigi Musical is a great idea. You've mentioned a few musicals there. Talk about Hamilton. People love an anti-hero. Think about Aaron Burr. Think about Chicago and the story of Roxy Hart. People love that. They eat it up.
Well, 49 people did, that's for sure.
Hamilton, again. How old was that after?
Okay, well, what's the time?
And by the way, you just answered, you just said 49 people.
Well,
Sorry, 5 times over. So
this show will sell. This show's going to sell.
So you think this show has a chance to make it to Broadway?
I didn't say Broadway.
Okay.
But it could go.
Why not Broadway?
By the way,
why not Broadway?
It could go to Broadway.
You just said
Little Shop of Horrors.
Absolutely.
Did not go to Broadway. It was off Broadway.
Okay.
So there. We're gonna.
You don't even know if you're making your point anymore. You just want to make a point.
It wasn't on Broadway. It was off Broadway.
Okay. So okay.
We're taking a break.
When we come back, Sydney Sweeney's got a side hustle. Math teacher? A lot of people would not think this works, but you're going to see why maybe this is exactly what the education system needs.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
Justin Timberlake made Portland kids' dream come true by joining a bike bus ride. And they always listen to Justin Timberlake.
Cry me a river when they fall. Yeah, right.
It's TMZ.
I told you that Sydney Sweeney and Drake are revolutionizing education. You would probably laugh and go, okay, where's the punchline?
Well, I know the punchline, so.
But you know the punchline.
I love the punchline.
Listen, there's a company that is called Unlock Learning, and they've been doing this for some time now, where they use AI and they use celebrities to try and deliver lessons in math, in this case.
So who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to the 48-year-old librarian/teacher who's trying to teach you math where your eyes are rolling inside your head, or are you going to hear from Sydney Sweeney?
Well, my nephew is a math teacher who definitely does not look like Sydney Sweeney. Here's, without further ado, Professor Sweeney and Professor Graham.
Let's find the size of this 3D vector. 4i plus 3j plus 3k. So remember, finding a vector's size just means finding its length, right?
Right.
And our vector r goes 4 steps in the x direction, 3 steps in the y, and 3 steps up in the z direction.
Sydney, wait. I want y'all to notice that there's like 2 right-angle triangles here. One standing up and one on the floor.
Right? And to find the length of r, we can start by finding the length of this side that's in both of them. Any idea how?
So if you look at the triangle on the floor, is that side the hypotenuse?
Correct. So we can go ahead and use
Pythagoras. So this side's length squared plus this side's length squared equals this side squared. So square root that and we get the length.
Now we can use this side and do Pythagoras again to get the length of the vector.
That is fabulous.
That is not fabulous. That was so much more confusing. A teacher in a class can much more easily deliver that.
It's a very cool visual. Like, the video is obviously cool with the use of AI, but it's like, if it's Sydney Sweeney and you're like a boy in high school or whatever, you're looking at Sydney Sweeney. You're not looking at the hypotenuse.
Did you know that there was a graphic in that image along with Sydney Sweeney? I know you saw it.
I think I saw a right
I saw her boobs too, okay? I saw her boobs too, but I also saw the triangle.
And, well, Devin's point is that a lot of students are not going to look at the graphic.
First
They're not
of
going
all,
to look at the
that
triangle.
was advanced calculus. If you dumb it down,
if you've already gotten to that point.
think about where you went to school, and if she teaches at that level, it's going to be much, 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 much easier.
I mean, every kid's going to show up to class, but they're not going to learn anything.
I am your girl, Shay, calling in from Covington, Georgia. And look, I mean, I was horrible in math. I'm not going to lie. You know, math was horrible for me. I bombed out in math. Now, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that using, celebrities, are they choosing certain celebrities that they're using? I don't know. Drake, he just got dissed in front of all of America this year. I don't know if using Drake.
Yeah, that's a point. By the way, could I spin the wheel?
Oh, gosh.
I just curious.
Making a horrible reference to your background, which I think looks more like an Earth, Wind &
like
Fire album cover. You see the Wheel of Fortune. I don't know. Both could be right.
Okay, we got to take a break.
All right. When we come back, the alarming shooting and the murders in Minnesota's 2 state lawmakers, what police have told us about the suspect and what he did to gain entry to their homes should really scare everyone, because when can you trust that law enforcement is actually law enforcement and not an impersonator? We'll be joined by an FBI agent to give you some tips when we come back. Welcome back to TMZ Live. One of the most disturbing parts of the case in Minnesota where Vance Belter is accused of opening fire on 2 Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses, killing, of course, Melissa Hortman, the House Speaker in Minnesota, and her husband. John Hoffman and his wife are recovering from their injuries. But one of the more disturbing parts that the FBI and other law enforcement have revealed is what Belter allegedly did to gain entry to the homes at the Hortman home.
I mean, I think you can say at this point he did it because there's ring camera video.
But
he's dressed like a cop.
Dressed like a cop, wearing a very creepy mask, but dressed like a cop, and saying that he was there because there had been a shooting reported, and gained entry to their house that way. It is unfortunately something we've seen in other cases recently where people are posing as FBI agents, posing as ICE agents.
And robbing people.
Yeah, and robbing people. So what do you do when someone comes and knocks on your door saying they're law enforcement? Joining us now to discuss this is Steve Lazarus, a retired FBI agent. Steve, welcome to TMZ Live.
Hi, gents. Thanks for having me on.
Steve, this is terrifying that you don't know how authentic it is, the person who's knocking at your door at 2 in the morning.
Or someone who pulls you over, even.
Or someone who pulls you over, because we've seen that too. What do you do in times like this when people are posing as cops, committing crimes, in some cases murdering people, and you don't know the good guys from the bad guys?
Well, if I can start by saying this is something not really all that new. 25 years ago, I was working cases as a drug agent in Atlanta, Georgia, where we had dope dealers who were ripping off other dope dealers' houses for their product or for their money by banging on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning and yelling police, and they would let them in. That said, there's the thing that jumps off the page about me as I'm reading the news reports, and I'm just reading the news reports like you are. I have no inside knowledge of this, is if someone comes to your door and they're knocking loudly or they're banging on your door, they're saying, police, open the door, they're making a demand. They're not asking if you want to buy tickets to the policeman's ball. They're not asking, if you saw the break-in next door. They're making a good demand to come into your house. And normally that means one of two things. It means a search warrant or it means an arrest warrant. And I don't know of a single reputable police department, certainly not a federal agency, that is ever going to send one officer, one agent to your door to serve a search warrant or a police warrant, a arrest warrant. So that would have been the first red flag for me. Then you get into...
Can I stop you on that first one? Because
absolutely,
like in the LA fires, you had police fanning out, going door to door in some cases. We've seen that in other disasters. And you don't know what's going on in the neighborhood. It could be that there's a real thing and the police are trying to get to as many homes as possible. So it is possible that one cop could come to your door.
Is there a question that you could ask them that's going to lead to, more information that you would feel comfortable? How could you?
Yeah, and your point is well made. It's all context, obviously. If it's in the middle of a fire, I might be more expecting something like this to happen than just in the dead middle of the night with nothing else going on in my neighborhood. I think the thing that I would ask them is, what department are you with? What's your badge number? Let me see some ID. That's where I would start.
But you open the door. That's the problem.
Well, but you could ask those questions through the door.
Through the door.
Right.
Through the door.
Don't open the door.
Yeah.
Right.
I hate to say this, because I'm a retired federal law enforcement officer. Most of my good friends are either still in or were in law enforcement at the state, local, and federal level for years and years. But we've reached a point now where you just can't trust that the person knocking on your door has necessarily got your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
And we've got to start taking matters into our own hands. I don't mean shooting through the door, but I mean we've got to be uber cautious. And it starts with ascertaining really who's on the other side of that door.
What you're saying makes sense. But if somebody knocks at my door and says, there's a shooting in your neighborhood, which means there's an emergency, and I'm hearing a cop on the other side, I mean, am I supposed to say, let me hear your partner talk before I open the door? It just seems like, wake me up at 2 in the morning.
Your partner?
Yeah.
Yeah, where's your partner? There's a shooting? That's terrible. Thank you for being here to support me. I'm going to go ahead and stay and keep me safe. I'm going to stay inside here with the door locked, and God bless you, officer. Thanks for serving your country. The issue becomes when you open the door.
You know what? But Steve, I get you. You're not following along.
No, I'm totally following along. I'm just the reason I'm reacting is it's just we've gotten to this point in our country where you can't rely on anything.
And because what was in the case of Belter, I mean, he was clearly mentioning something that is an issue for lawmakers, that they get these swatting threats, right, where people find out their address and then they do call in and report something. So they're aware of that. It's even more nefarious that he used an actual issue.
Again, it's not one guy standing outside your door saying, "Let me in." And I think, again, that is still the first huge red flag for me. And it's not only a red flag if somebody's standing at my door. It's a red flag if somebody pulls me over in a sketchy-looking unmarked in the middle of a road somewhere where there's not a lot of traffic passing by. That's also an issue for me.
I think the Philly incident last week, I want to bring up, because that's more akin to being pulled over, where someone posed as an ICE agent and went into a business and just went up to a woman who is
robbed her,
Latina, but she is a citizen here, but told her, you know, you don't need to know about this. I have the right to be here, and just sort of overpowered her. That's a different situation because they're right there. There's no door between you. They've now, this person has come into your space. How do you deal with that?
Unfortunately, there's not a good answer to that, Charles. You can't deal with it. Somebody walks in and sticks a gun in your face. The best thing that you can do at that point is survive the incident and be a good witness later for when the real cops do show up. You know, there's two types of people who engage in this kind of behavior. The first ones are kind of like cosplayers almost. They're people, the same guys who go to bars and pretend to be Navy SEALs. And they're harmless enough. They might be trying to get a free drink or impress a girl or something like that. But then there's guys who take this to the level where it's their tool to commit criminal offenses, whether it's robbing someone or whether it's abducting someone or whether in this case it's killing someone. So I think, you know, your question is a great question. You know, what do you do if somebody walks up and sticks a gun in your face? Survive the incident. Do whatever it is you have to do to survive the incident. What do you do if somebody's on the other side of a barrier and they need to cross that barrier to get to you? You keep them from crossing that barrier any way you can. You buy time, you make noise, and you make them uncomfortable to be there.
And that leads to the final thing, which is that there has been so much violence in this country and violence against police officers. So if people are starting to think they're not legit, and you're on the other side of that barrier and the person on the other side is trying to get in or get at you, you could end up having a shootout with a legitimate cop because people are so on edge and skeptical.
And it's not only it's not a possible, you know, hypothetical situation. It happens all the time. Cops are getting shot on traffic stops. Cops are getting shot at search warrants all the time. When I was handing somebody, for instance, a subpoena to come to court, not even an arrest warrant, I'd hand them a subpoena. I would identify myself. I'd show them my FBI credentials. They'd say, "How do I know this is real?" And this is 25 years ago. When I first started out as an FBI agent, this was going on. People have got a healthy, I'm not going to say disrespect, and some disrespect, but a skepticism of all things law enforcement related. And it's, you know, now you're kind of getting that irresistible force meets a movable object, you know, where now you got guys cosplaying as cops, and you've got this seething sort of distrust of law enforcement already. And this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
I got to tell you, Steve, this is really terrifying, but your perspective is so important. And actually, there's real takeaway here, so thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Wow, that was interesting, useful, and so frightening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really is.
We are taking a break.
All right. When we come back, Kevin Costner and Christine Baumgartner back together, face to face.
I've been gone 2 weeks. You're kidding.
A lot changes, man. A lot changes. You wouldn't have imagined this scene, not yet anyway, that Kevin Costner and Christine Baumgartner could actually be in the same space and smiling even. But it happened over the weekend because, hey, they got they got kids. And 18-year-old Caden graduated from high school. So both mom and dad were there and put their best foot forward and their best faces forward. Look, I guess it's easy. We saw a bunch of these last week where exes end up coming together because it's graduation season.
Yeah, but Charles, you saw the exes last week like hug and interact with each other.
Well,
you don't
that's
even
not gonna
see
happen.
these people even talk to each other, even look at each other. I think that they scheduled with the son, like who would get the photos when, so they wouldn't even have to cross
Well, they
paths.
do have a photo. They're right. I mean,
I know, but look,
Charles, that is not a family reunited.
That is not a family reunited.
I guess not.
Courtney.
Oh, wait, hold on. The photo with Kevin, to be clear, the photo with Kevin is not Christine.
No, they
and
were never
Caden.
in a photo
That's the
together.
sister.
Oh,
Yes, I
I
was
thought
thinking
the same thing.
Yes.
No, they
that's
were
his
never
sister.
even
Okay.
photographed together.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
No,
and
you
I
guys
thought
are
they were.
blind. They don't even look alike.
It's her daughter. Of course they look alike.
No.
You think all of them look alike?
No, what? Oh my God. Okay, you are loose cannon. This guy comes back from vacation and just every thought filter. You have to filter thoughts now. I don't know who you were on vacation with, and maybe they were cool with it. We are not here. Filter, please.
Don't treat me like a child.
Hey guys, it's Coco Louie coming to you live from Washington, D.C., chiming in on the Kevin Costner story. So, Harvey, that's wishful thinking that they will be together. But the silver lining is they were able to put aside their differences and the tension between them to celebrate and support their sons.
I don't know how much
it's
they put them
always
aside.
good.
Yeah. I
mean,
really did think
there
it
was
was
no fighting.
I did think it
Yeah,
was Christine and Kevin.
To her point, there was no fighting.
Tells the whole story.
They took their photos and they went their separate ways.
Did they ever? All right. Okay, every weekend we put polls up at the website. We want to see how you feel about stuff that happened, by the way, last week. Everything happened last week.
A couple of things that happened.
Yeah.
A couple of thousand things. Ye showing up at Diddy's trial. Great show of friendship, or he's not helping. It better be he's not helping.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, who are those 7%? Trump deploying Marines in L.A. Outrageously wrong or right thing to do? This is going to be 35-65. Wow.
Oh, wow.
How
wait,
about
did you have it? Is that the way you had it?
That's exactly.
Okay.
That's
All right.
exactly.
All right, good. Who you got in the battle between Governor Newsom and President Trump?
I am interested. What do you think before you show it?
I would think it's pretty even, maybe Trump by a slight margin.
I kind of agree.
55-45?
Oh my God.
Something's up there.
Something's up. That does not align.
No.
U.S. military in Middle East war. Send Israel support or stay out of it.
They're going to go stay out of it. I mean,
think-
the
wow.
president has said
But
he does
that's
not want to get involved, but, you know.
Well, but support could mean munitions.
Right. Could be just sending.
I'm a little surprised at the spread there.
I think people just don't want to see U.S. forces in the middle of it. Actual soldiers. But anyway.
We're on the verge of World War III.
Yeah, kind of scary.
Yeah, kind of scary. Or not. I think it's kind of scary. By a lot.
That's how people
By a
feel.
lot.
That's how people feel.
That feels like what's actually going on.
Yes.
Okay, we are going to take a break.
When we come back, the Beckham family saga rages on. Big update over the weekend. Good sign or a bad sign? We'll let you decide. So over the weekend, there was a sign that maybe things were going to calm down in the Beckham family because there was a Father's Day message where David shouted out all of his children, including Brooklyn.
Did he mention Brooklyn by name?
Yeah, he tagged Brooklyn. Huh. My favorite gift of all time. And it says all the kids there. And the fact that he included Brooklyn, think, all right, maybe things are going to start to calm down. And then enter Kim Turnbull into the chat. Kim Turnbull is the woman that Romeo was dating that Brooklyn and Nicola had a problem with, and that was the center of the whole split in the family. Kim Turnbull has broken up, or Kim and Romeo have broken up, so you'd think, all right, everything's fine, but this is what Kim had to say.
Kim, stop. My recollection is that they said that Brooklyn then dated Kim.
Brooklyn had an issue with Kim because some point in the past he had dated or hooked up with. It was very vague, but they had some history where he did not trust her motives.
Right.
So this is what Kim now has to say. Now that she's broken up with Romeo. She says, I've avoided speaking on this topic. However, I feel the need to address it so I can move on. I will not continue to receive harassment or be embarrassed on the basis of lies to fit a certain narrative. I have never been romantically involved in any capacity at any point with the person in question, Brooklyn. Nothing between us has occurred further than a school friendship at age 16.
Wow.
I mean, what's interesting here is the people that we've spoken to that are close to Brooklyn have very much been adamant that there was some kind of almost like a fling. They didn't date. So her saying they didn't date is accurate. But there was something going on at some point, which obviously makes sense because we had reported that the whole blow up was because of the fact that Brooklyn felt like Kim didn't have good intentions, that she was trying to get back in with the Beckham family, maybe for, financial reasons or to be a part of the famous family name. We also know from sources that as of today, Brooklyn still has had no communication with his parents. So just because Romeo and Kim broke up, things haven't changed between Brooklyn and his parents.
Letitia from Dallas. Harvey and Charles, look, this is a total mess. This Kim and the Beckham boys, there was something going on. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Even if it's a small campfire, there was something going on. And you know what they say, bros before, ...
Don't say that. Everybody can get back together. Yeah, like Kevin Costner and Christina Baumgartner. What else you guys want to talk about?
Hi, it's Carrington from Houston, Texas, and I want to chime in on the Diddy trial. I think the judge will continue to deny Diddy's request for a mistrial. However, I think his team is setting up grounds for an appeal once he's convicted. I actually think that juror number 6 getting dismissed is a good thing. It seems that that guy maybe worked for the Department of Corrections, and he actually might not be on Diddy's side. So he lucked out today.
Well, my understanding is the defense thinks that he was skeptical of the prosecution.
And we should say he's an accountant in the Department of Corrections.
Taking a break.
All right, when we come back, the Pope, Pacino, the Pope coming together. This is quite an honor.
For both.
For both. For both. Al Pacino's work took him over to Italy, and while he was there, I guess when you're Al Pacino, it's probably a little bit easier to get an audience with the Pope. But yes, he actually went in to meet with Pope Leo.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You got to think that the Pope is a fan of Al Pacino's.
Oh, of course.
Right? An American guy, 69 years old.
Grew up in Chicago. Yes, of course he's a fan of Al Pacino.
That's so cool.
By the way, the car he's holding up, Pacino is over there shooting a movie about the Maserati brothers. So I'm guessing that car is probably a Maserati.
Yep.
Hard to tell from that, but pretty cool that they got to meet.
It's an honor for Pacino, but it's a perk for the Pope.
I guarantee the Pope feels honored also if he grew up a fan.
Wouldn't it be great if the Pope, because he seems like a cool guy.
Yeah.
The Pope says, come on, say, you talking to me? You talking to me?
That's De Niro. Wow. Oh, gotcha. Awesome. We're going to see you tomorrow. Won the last argument.